Hello, everyone. My name is Rinchal Du. I'm the artistic director of Kirov Academy. This morning, I want to introduce you another episode of our ballet podcast. I am so happy. I'm very excited about this particular episode because Mr. Mathias Dingman is going to be our first Kirov alumni guest. So it is extra special to introduce someone who is grew up from Kiev Academy and went on to have having a brilliant career, and I feel a special attachment to Matthias. So without further ado, let's welcome to Mr. Mathias Dingman.
Hi guys.
Hello, Matthias.
How
How are you? Welcome, welcome. You're going to be our first alumni. I'm extra excited about it. And I want to just talk to the audience a little bit about you. I'm looking at your resume, Matthias. I mean, honestly, it is picture perfect. So you did everything a young dancer, a young student dream of, the path from a school, somewhat a regional, smaller school, and then you realized you wanted to be professional, you have the talent to be professional, and you went to Kirov Academy, where the school had ability to brought out the very best in you, and then you went on, you graduated from Kirov Academy in 2006, and you, during your time in Kirov, you basically win every competition there it is, including the Varna competition. In my opinion, is the one of the most prestigious. Honestly, 6 classical variations, and the raked stage. I believe when you competed, was it raked still?
It wasn't raked when I did it, but it was still a wooden stage, and that's got its
Yes,
own problems.
absolutely. And that is the professional, honestly, the most professional competition, the Varna International Ballet Competition. So you also win Youth America Grand Prix, and you also in the international competition Varna in Korea, and you went to Birmingham Royal Ballet right after graduation, and you worked your way up, and you promoted to principal dancer in 2015, and you were having an absolutely brilliant career, danced classical, neoclassical, everything there is to be danced for a male principal dancer. So it is just really beautiful, and I am confident you have done something persistent, something consistently right. I like to um, open up a couple questions for you, Matthias. First of all, I want you to introduce yourself. After, I just briefly say what I understood, but can you briefly introduce yourself to our audience, something that I'm not seeing on your resume?
Yeah, so obviously I'm Matthias. I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina,
Mhm.
and yeah, I started ballet as a normal, as I guess any all guys have their own story and how they get into ballet. But I got
Yeah.
into ballet at 8. At 12, I went to Kirov. I spent 6 years at the school and graduated when I was 18. Um, where at a boarding school, you're engulfed with your sole focus is ballet, and it worked great with me. And went on to move to England, joined Birmingham Royal Ballet, and um, danced many roles. I've guested with other companies, and I'm guess the few things that you haven't said is that I'm married to a beautiful wife, and I've got
Yes.
2 gorgeous sons, Henry and Oscar. So
How old are
my
they,
lot,
Matthias? How
uh,
old are they?
Henry is 3, and Oscar just turned 2.
Oh my gosh, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Are you
So
okay in are you busy in the evenings and up? And I remember I was still dancing when I had my first girl, and she's now almost 13. It was tough. I have to, get up and take the company class and the rehearsals, the performances, and your mind is always at home. Do you feel that way now?
Yeah, it's you're torn all the time.
Yes, I'm.
Uh, yeah, even like, I think the hardest thing is being away from home. In the company I'm in, we tour
Yeah,
everywhere, and so that means going away for weeks on end, and that's
yeah,
definitely the hardest.
yeah. It is. I can totally relate to that. And I think after I became a father, I don't know if I'm sure you feel the same way. After I became a father, everything sort of changed a little bit. Even the role that I used to dance for many years, but after I became a father, the sentiment changed quite a bit, and my whole outlook toward ballet, to work, somewhat evolved. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, it definitely it gives you more attachment and like attachment and desire to things. Like obviously, the more you feel and the more emotions that you feel yourself,
Right,
the better chance you can express that on stage.
right.
And that's really important to me about performing. So having the family, the good and um, the bad, the sleepless nights and all
Yes.
that all like creates into what you can use to be on stage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to go back a little bit about your experience in Kirov. If there's three most essential qualities that Kirov provided you, can you share with us that the three most important quality that you learned and you had in Kirov that was become influential in your future career, in your future success? What are the difference between Kirov Academy and other schools, the vast majority of ballet schools in America? You mentioned a boarding school. What else? Can you name three of these things that I share with our audience?
Yeah, for me, the when I was look when I was like I was 11 when I decided I really wanted to pursue dance as a career, and you have to go to a school to do that, where you're with like-minded people and you're all driven for the same purpose. But what really set for me Kirov apart from the other schools is, and it was a crucial thing for any child, is that you do the academics as well as the dancing. So when I was looking at schools at the time, there was only two options in North America, and that was Kirov and National Ballet of Canada.
Hmm.
And I did summer programs at both schools to see which one I liked best, and I gravitated towards Kirov. It was what I can't actually give you this exactly why what I chose that school, but there was just a spark there, and I was driven and like had to go to Kirov. It's just got that walking through the halls and the studios and um, the atmosphere that really captivated me. But that was the most important thing. I know definitely from my parents sending me away from home was that it could be everything. You could do all your learning, your academics, your dancing. You can live there all in one place. So that was a massive advantage that Kirov had to offer. Um, another thing would be to have an atmosphere of everyone learning at the same, like everyone learning the same material together. Um, as a guy, especially when you're at your local school, you're normally one or maybe two guys in the whole school. But you can go to a school like Kirov and you're in a class of 10, 12, 13, 14 guys, all on the same level, all driving each other to success. And that was brilliant. Kirov had that. I danced and learned from so many guys and girls who went through that school during my time.
You mentioned a couple words that stuck out for me. One is driven. The other, you gravitate that type of environment. I have a conversation with parents and students quite a bit about why you need to choose Kirov versus other schools. because I think this is something that spark that when you were in the school and you felt it, this is what I need. One of the things that you mentioned is very important. I think that everything was under one roof. So everything was designed to servicing you so you can be the best professional dancer can be. Everything was around you. It is not something you out to reach, try to put this composition together. The whole school was surrounded you for one purpose, for you to be a professional dancer. And I think if you have to be driven enough as a person, you have to be clear enough that this is something I want to do. And I'm going to immerse myself in the school like this and then let myself go and then let myself learn the best I can do in that environment. And I feel the same way. I went to boarding school as well. I went to boarding school for 7 years in China. Same thing. It's enclosed academic. We have library. We have the kitchen. We had everything was in service to serving you. So this is one thing that I felt the same way as what you just mentioned. What are the most memorable moments that you had in Kirov? Because we had Mr. Prince Sanders as our guest speaker. Were you in the same class with him in 2000? No, maybe a different time. And we spent a day together in the academy, and he shared some of the most interesting, interesting stories. You know, it's a dormitory. So you don't just go home after the class, you know, you stay in school. So this is create a other dimension of, I have to say, learning, not just ballet, learning about people, learning about life. And from a very young age, we needed to learn how to work with others, how to live with others. And that's also a skill as well, I think, the byproduct of living, learning in a boarding school. Can you share with us some of the most memorable moments that you had in Kirov Academy?
I know that one day that, well, all the guys that I know who went to school with, we always look forward to Halloween. We always
still do.
Yeah, we used to be very naughty in what we chose to dress up in. We swapped classes one year, dressed up as girls, and the girls dressed up as guys. But Halloween was always and each year you had to do better than the last year. That was always great. I remember one time someone ordered a pizza from Domino's or somewhere, and you weren't allowed to at that time of night because of curfew. You weren't allowed to get that pizza delivered, and they attached a laundry basket to clothes and lowered it out the window to get this pizza. And I was like, that is driven. They really needed that pizza. That was really but yeah, like you said, living with people is different. You know, you have I think when I was there like 60 people, and everyone comes from all over the world, all over America, all different backgrounds, all different cultures. I had non-English speaking roommates probably more years than I didn't when I was at Kirov. Always either a Japanese or someone from Korea. So that has its own challenges. But I think the biggest highlight, I would say, of all is, you know, as a student, you don't get to perform much. And you do, you know, Kirov, you do 2 shows in December and 2 shows in May. And that was what everything was for. You know, all your hard work, the whole year was all for that one show or the 2 shows. And that's what everyone looked forward to. That's why we were all there. We're all there to train, to learn to be better dancers and better artists. But really, you're training to be on stage, and that's those shows are what everyone lived for.
Yeah, it still has that spark. It is how that theater is set up and how everybody geared toward that performance. And also, you're talking about group thriving together, especially let's say boys. I had grew up with the boys class with my classmates. To this day, we are brothers. Whenever I go back to China, one of the first people I see is my classmates. And oftentimes, the only subject, honestly, the only subject we ever talked about is our school years in the dormitory. It is some of the most memorable time in my life that really shaped who I am today. I do have to say that it's my boarding school years shaped who I am today. A lot of things that I teach students today, how I'm mentoring them, how I tell them not to do certain things or do certain things. Honestly, it's some of the experience that I had when I was a teenager in the boarding school. So I'm happy that although all schools, Kirov Academy in the school I went to and Shanghai School of Ballet, in structure is absolutely the same. It's very, very similar. So the product are very similar as well, just because you went through the same system. So that's something that I think I want to share with the audience, that you train with a group of people, you learn from the same material, and oftentimes it is you competing with each other, not friendly, of course, but learn from each other, from the boys next to you, to see how he did that double tour, and you learn from the mistake, you learn from other people how he did something like that so brilliant, and you want to compete. This is a spark, that energy. I refer to the boys right now in Kiev Academy. It's like they're like a tigers. In like at 9 o'clock at night, I really have to chase them out the studio. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Otherwise, they would be in there all day long. They would be doing a double tour in the hallway. I mean, this is when you reach that point. I think as a school, it's beautiful because you don't ever have to tell the students to work hard. They work hard by themselves. They work too hard. I mean, there was a point where I had to check the boys' temperature because there was people were having temperature with student in theater, student in studio train. So that is really beautiful. And the teachers just sit back and see this beautiful energy evolving in front of you. How I want to move forward with Matthias, and this is you win some of the most beautiful competitions. Can you share with us that how did winning the international competition help advance your career? Did or did not? And if it did, in what way?
I think competitions, now that I can look at where I am now in my life and career, competitions are definitely a double-edged sword.
Mm.
They are amazing if you're that type of dancer who's ready at an early age, and not everyone's ready, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's what, first off, people need to learn and know, is not everyone is at 14 ready to do solos at that level, but they might be in 5, 10 years time. But if you are, you have to realize that it's a competition, and it's they God, how do I say it? They sometimes they're unfair, sometimes they're fair. I was lucky enough for most of the ones I did, but the best thing about them for me was doing all the solos and training for them all. It definitely helped me. It got me to see a lot of other dancers. So, you're in your school. I had like a group of like 10 guys that we always were doing stuff together. But when you go to competition, you see people from, Beijing or Russia or South America, and it's all different styles, and then you can learn and grow from that. So that was great as a dancer to see what is out there in the world. It's definitely great to have something on your resume. I do think that for a company, if you have an award, it's something that maybe can make you stand out against the rest. But I did everything. You've listed some of them, but I've done Vienna and Jackson. The only one I never did was Prelazon. And if you do too many, it definitely goes to your head, I would say, and it did for me. which then had maybe some repercussions when you join a company. But all in all, the training for them is amazing, and it's a great experience to see what's out there in the world. And all in all, it did really help me to get where I wanted.
Don't you think that I believe I always also value competition in the way that I only like to take the most important value part of the competition. I like to emphasize on that period, which to me is a preparation period. So in order for a student to go to a competition in the standard, let's say in Kirov Academy, when we send someone out there to a competition, that coaching period is absolutely golden, because I personally believe a goal-oriented project is more effective. So instead of just training, but there's a goal at the end, which is enter and participate in a competition or a big important performance. Having that at the back of your head, to have that trajectory, to have that end goal, to me, it's more helpful. It's very helpful for students' mindset during the preparation period. So for you, you winning all these beautiful competitions, when you were entering audition for Birmingham Royal Ballet, did they take that into big consideration, or they audition you? Do you want to see you currently as a dancer? Did they look at your resume and say, oh, that's great? Or they really had a look at you as a dancer? What do you think? What do you think the percentage of it?
I think most companies now, they're going to look at the footage. They're going to look at the footage and see what they have, or they'll ask you to come and take a company class. That tends to be the more normal route, especially in Europe. But I definitely think that it's something that will stick out, because they're going to get hundreds of resumes, and everyone danced all the solos at school. It's a given. But what makes you different than someone else? And the only other things that they're going to look at is your height. So, because they might have a contract, but they're looking for a guy who's
specific
6 foot.
Yeah.
And that it's unfortunate you might not fit that category, but they might look at, oh, he's won this and this and this. Maybe he's worth a shot to see what he has to offer, or what she has to offer. When I got the job, when I was getting jobs, I hadn't done Varna. I'd done Youth Grand Prix, and I'd done Kirov. So I did Varna the summer before I joined, before I started dancing professionally. So I still had medals on my resume, but not that big one.
That one, yeah, because if you list you win gold medal at Varna, that's a big plus. So students, out there watching, the competition, there's many competition today, but there's just few of them that we call it the really precious ones, really prestigious ones, that a company really value them. So I think I share with you, Matthias, that the process of entering competition is very important. Also, I liked, because a lot of competitions are dealt differently now these days, 12, 13 years later. I think today, I like the competition where the direction is going, because it's more of a community. It's more of a festival instead of just a pure, it's like an Olympics. You represent a company. Like for one period of time, China only sent a team. They will send a team. They will have like 3 translators, 5 coaches to bring 5 dancers, like 3 couples and 2 soloists. The only competition they'll ever go is Varna, because they believe this is the only competition is worth something for them to enter in. And they will spend 6 months to coach them. So it's like they were thinking they're like a delegation. So in the competition at that scale, you really see dancers from all over the world, and they're the very best. And the professional connection you create at that engagement is tremendous. Nonetheless, that the importance to the dialogue you create with the judges they were certainly artistic directors and best choreographers in the world. So that connection, to me, it is it's precious. It is very, because when they judge you, when they see you out there for like 2 weeks, entering 3 rounds, they, even if they don't talk to you, they develop a connection, a professional, even a personal connection with you as a performer. So that has huge implication for you, Mathias, like as a dancer for your future. That have a huge impact. That's really beautiful, and the way you did it is absolutely wonderful, because right before you starting your professional career, you have all this performance, all those competitions done, and you've done so well. Now, I want to talk about now to when you enter the company, yeah. So you're the boarding school, and then you entered the competitions, and you're ready for your career. Now you're ready to become a professional ballet dancer. What were the challenges that you faced when you entered the company? What are the challenges right away? Something that different from your expectations, something you had to fix, something you had to incorporate into your daily lives that you weren't expected. Will you share with that? Because I think it's very helpful for our young audience to know that.
Yeah, the thing that really hit me hard is you have to be so fast at picking up rep. I mean, in Birmingham Royal Ballet, we do so many things really quickly. Our turnaround is, we will do Nutcracker in 9 days. That's a whole ballet. So for me, I really struggled from going to like a school class to a really fast-paced company class where you're doing different combinations and all the time, and to then go, I found that hard, and then going into actually learning choreography, I was quite slow, I would say. So that took a while to learn how to pick up the repertoire. So that was the biggest struggle for me early on. And you then learn your way around. You learn that you can get the video, you can learn at home, so you're better prepared for the next time. But obviously when you get a choreographer and there's no video, they're choreographing it on you, so you have to remember it for the next day. That was definitely the hardest for me, and it took a while, a couple years for me to really get a foot on how you should approach that and deal with that.
Do you think that, I'm a new director of Kirov Academy, and one of the things that I did last year, I look at the curriculum. I teach the class on Saturday morning. I purposely gave them something very different from the classes that they take weekly from their teachers, because I want to introduce some new ideas, a new port de bras, a new transitional step, a new timing to the students, so they understand this is not only way you do rond de jambe. This is not only way you do the preparation, because teachers might ask you to do something entirely different. I wanted to make sure all Kirov students are aware there's another way to do certain steps. And I think it is important for school like a Kiev Academy to have that kind of extra curriculum, I would say. That's why we have guest artists coming in and giving students talks, and also the repertory. Like this year, we went to YGP, it's school-wide, when we went with the 35 students, and we picked the pieces, and we went a lot of contemporary pieces that I think in the process of teaching students contemporary pieces that train their head, actually you can move differently. The tempo can be dealt with very differently. So I think this is important in today's students to understand the diverse way of choreographer wanted it from certain steps, and how extravagant, honestly, they wanted it. But in the way that in order for you to master, obviously you've done very well. You became principal dancer years later. The foundation, don't you feel the foundation Kirov offer you that allowed you to manipulate, allow you to change without losing the foundation of a classical ballet technique.
Yes. Yeah, that is the cornerstone to where I am today. It's, like there's obviously different styles of ballet. Everywhere can do things slightly different, but there's a core set of things of steps on how you have to do them, and that's what Kirov really taught me. And then you can then adapt it for the different styles. But
Yes.
there's only you know you do different double tours for a solo like Sleeping Beauty than you would do in Don Q, and
Right.
that's the adaptable stuff that you can change. But how you actually do those jumps are set, and that's what Kirov really taught me.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Very important. I very wholeheartedly agree with you. Is the solid foundation allow you to fly far away? I mean, I like to progress. I like progression, but I prefer to have a solid tradition so you can progress further and last longer. Um, what besides professionally, Matthias, share with us. Besides learning choreography was a challenge for you in a young age, and or learn them faster. What else, as far as company life, is that something you had expected when you're at boarding school? Then you enter a company. Is that something you expected your life in general when you became a professional? When I call it from a student to professional, where you actually earning a salary, where you have a lot of freedom in terms of your choices. I'm talking about something perhaps outside of the studio, something unrelated or related to your professional life. When you become independent, is there something that can you share with us that you found difficult, and what did you do to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, it's you. I guess I just turned 18 and I joined a company, and I obviously you think, especially me, I was 18. I thought I knew everything. I thought I was ready to take on the world. But when you're living in an apartment by yourself, you have to buy your own food, pay your own bills. Yes, you're getting paid, but all those things weren't done for you before. Um, you have to cook your own meals. You have to not you, like you clean when you're at school, but it's different when it's your apartment, when it's your space,
Mm-hmm.
um, that you're paying for. All those things, it definitely took me at least a year to kind of understand and get around to how to kind of live, I would say.
To live,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like actually going to the studio and doing your work was the easy part. But how do you live? How do you then have to you've come into a company, you're the youngest by far
Yeah.
than anyone else. You have to try to fit in with um, the people in the company, um, which is not as easy as people might think. And luckily, Birmingham Royal Ballet was great. Like they welcomed me,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got great friends and everything in the company. But that's not the same for everyone. And but yeah, living. You think you could live at school, you think it's different, but your food is made for you. You've got a washing machine, but you're not paying for that all
Yeah.
yourself. It's not all on you. So definitely, you learn a lot of life. I learned a lot of life skills in the first year of being in a company. That for me was I thought I was ready for, but
Mm-hmm.
I probably should have thought more about that before I got to a company.
But I think I think both you and I know that that's not something you can really teach. What
No.
you and I try to do now is make people aware it's such a challenge, but you really have to live the life in order to overcome or understand truly how those challenges would impact your professional life. to impact your professional career. Because if you are stressed with other aspects of life, you're not going to perform well in daily professional environment. I remember when I came to this country, I was 18 years old. I joined Washington Ballet before I was turned 19. It hit me. I was lost. I was lost for a long time. I just like you said, and I thought I knew everything. I thought I can do this, not a problem. But I realized you have to watch your money. You have to do the budgeting. I mean, there's things that you really have to understand, because if you don't manage those things well, you're gonna realize it's gonna hurt, and very quickly.
Yeah.
So I appreciate what you said. You would take a little time, but unless you truly immerse yourself into the situation, what we can do, you and I, is try to raise awareness that not just you do a clean double tour, not just you're a good partner and you're good looking, you're ready to take on the company. Yes, you are, but other aspects of your surroundings also play a major part. Thank you for sharing with us with that. And I think, I hope all young audience members to understand that, to be diligent, to be disciplined, and just to be observant. Those three qualities are important. To be observant, to learn something from the people around you in a company, and not just to learn how to partner or how to do certain steps, but learn how they are, why they are successful. And I think there is a consistency in similarities why people having a long lasting career, they all have something in common. And normally these people are more observant, more respectful, and they're generally a good people. And I think that have a lot to do with it. That might sound something kind of disconnect to what we think a good answer should be. And I think the roots of it, to be a solid person, to be a compassionate person, because everybody's good, everybody is beautiful, everybody can do triple tour, everybody's good. But after that, what's left? I think it's the dignity to be a good person. And I think ballet can teach us that. So that's really a good thing to mention as a part of a quality, as not as an artist, but as a person, how important that is. What do you think some of the most important qualities a dancer must have in the company to survive? Now, I'm talking about more of artistically. So when you enter the company, that you learn how to pick up the choreography faster, you learn certain choreographer want certain things, so you begin to have to understand the experience of it. But it boils down to, you are having this tremendous career. You have worked with some of the best well-known choreographers in the world. What are the consistent quality that you must have in order for you to work with them, and just to be great artistically? I'm talking about my parents right now.
I think you have to be adaptable. I think a big part is you have to let go. You have to trust them and not be afraid to make a mistake. A lot of people, they put up walls because they're not willing to break free and try something new, because it's not comfortable. And if you put those walls up, you're never going to feel everything, and that's going to limit you artistically, definitely. But you have to be adaptable. Like you can have a classical choreographer come in, and then a modern choreographer or a neoclassical choreographer, and you have to be adaptable to, a modern dancer has to do everything. You can't just do classical ballet. You have to do that, but you have to do neoclassical, contemporary. Sometimes you have to clog. You have to roll around on the ground. You have to stand with the spear.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
all those things are important roles. Even the ones when you just walk on stage holding a book and you walk off, they all have a purpose in that production. And definitely be adaptable, willing to, you know, take on what a choreographer wants or a director. From my experience, definitely if the people who give it a go and really go for it, and without fear of, ooh, that might have looked bad or I've come across in a bad way, are the ones who go far, the ones who last longer, and are the ones that people want to work with.
That's
You know,
very,
you know,
yeah.
yeah, a choreographer is going to want to come in and work with people who are going to do what they want. And if you're not willing to do that, then they're not going to work with you.
That's right. That's right. And I think a lot of times our students have to understand when you become professional, you have to behave in a way that it's not about you anymore. It's about what you can contribute to
Yeah.
the company. So that concept is reversed. So in the school, more of students thinking, especially school like a Kirov Academy, we have a teachers completely in 100% service for you. So it's you develop this kind of attitude of it's about my comfort, right? Sometimes we have teachers fuss over a tempo that I don't really hear the differences, but it's a little too slow here, a little too fast there. It's absolutely has to be absolutely right. It's just perfect. And I agree that you have to do that in school. That's what school nurturing, that's what school's for. But when you go to the company, it was a shock for me was that some of the things that today's world asking classical ballet dancer to do are just incredible. But that is the beauty about today's ballet company. I mean, we do everything. We did everything. You can be doing classical evening that night, perform that night, but in the morning you are working with a modern choreographer rolling on the floor.
Yeah.
You might think it's strange how my body is going to do that, how my mind is going to do that. Yes, but that is the expectation from the company to asking for out of a professional ballet dancer. Um, Here's another question, Matthias. What's like to work with the Mr. Carlos Acosta?
Yeah, he's awesome. He just joined as our artistic director in January. We have he still has other commitments. So we had him for January and in when he's available till the next season. But when he's in, he is everything that you want as not just a person but as a director and as a teacher. I learned so much from him in 1 hour of an Act Two Swan Lake rehearsal than I've ever understood in the whole ballet. And we only did we were doing the White Swan Pas de Deux, and we only did maybe like 4 minutes of it in an hour and a half. And I learned more in those 4 minutes of steps than I had known for the entire ballet. And
That's
his,
beautiful.
yeah, and it's, you know, it's even as a professional and even as a principal, to have someone come in and give you another layer to, you know, your performance, not just on how, not just technical, but technical corrections, but just, you know, your finger should be in that place because there's a reason. You look this way because there's a reason. You Everything has a purpose, and that's what he's been really trying to get Birmingham Royal Ballet to change, is that everything is important. And not only that, like he's, you know, we all grew up watching his videos, and you know, we all wanted to dance like him, and he's that because he's that special, and everything he did was for a reason. And if you take that on, and I really tried to take that advice on, and he, like I said, he changed Swan Lake for me completely. we were going to be doing his Don Quixote at the end of the season, but obviously because of COVID-19, we've obviously had all the shows cancelled, and I was truly gutted to miss out on that. I was really looking forward to learning, because that's his, it's his ballet.
It's his ballet. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just the level of inspiration. I'm envious. I just can't absolutely picture how he would coach something like Swan Lake or Don Q on another generation of the dancers. What a gift! Absolutely
Yeah.
gift. And I think I have met him once, but just from very brief interaction, I know he is an absolutely generous person. Am I right? He's generous. Some people brilliant, but they are not really, not on purpose, but they just, there's lack of ability to share their knowledge. But I think he is, right? He's absolutely generous to share his knowledge with you. Am I right or no?
Yes, he has so much to give, and on the first day when he came, his first day of work, he was like, "I've got all this knowledge, and I want to pass it to you. I want you
Yeah.
guys to learn what I know, so you guys can then carry that on for, for not only for yourself, but then for the next generation, and so forth and so forth."
Yes,
And
it's a legacy. Yes.
yeah, and it's he really has something special, and I can't wait. It's a shame of everything that's been going on in the world that we've lost out on a lot of information and knowledge that he's going to share. But when we get back in August, we'll be getting
Yeah.
stuck back into it again.
Yes, and I can totally relate to sometimes you're in the studio within 5 minutes being coached or working with a choreographer. Within 5 minutes, you are being surrounded by something very spectacular, something very special, something very powerful. It doesn't take long for you to know it. So you just said in the 1 hour rehearsal, you learn more about this piece, and you realize right away that everything he said, everything that he wants you to do is special. It's absolutely thought after. It's absolutely tremendous in value, and hopefully you can share that to the next generation. Um, Matthias, share with me a little bit. Now I see you are in college. You are pursuing a biology degree. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I a couple years ago, well, actually, I shouldn't say a couple years ago. I think it was like 5 years ago.
Mm,
I, not that I was planning to retire or finish, but you do after, your first couple years in a company, you see people come and go, and I was like, actually, you should probably think about the future. You know, I didn't want to be 40 years old and then go, oh, what do I do now?
mm,
So I looked at what I was interested in, and it was always science. And so I started with the Open University to do a natural science degree in biology. Originally, I was like, oh, I'd like to be a physiotherapist or some sort of job in the health service. But I was always interested in science, and
mm,
it's served me really well. I've had the last 2 years off because of having children and
mm.
job and everything. That I did it for 1 year, and it is a massive challenge. And just now we have a new director, and so I'm taking another year off. But then after that, I'm back on it, and I've
Mm.
got one more. I'm almost on my final year, so it's taken a while, but chipping away.
That's great. So you can do it. Actually, there's a lot of I think with the COVID situation, a lot of people start beginning to value the online learning. I think this is something I want to share with all dancers, that you can, just like you say, you don't need to, you can overlap, correct? That's what you're doing. You don't need
Yeah.
to finish something, put aside, start something new. You can overlap. You can find a way, manage your time and energy if it's possible to do something on the side, right? So if you do everything correctly, by the time you stop something, then you have something lined up already. You have to complete something already. So I think that's a really smart approach to the eventual, because we all have to retire. I mean, this is something, when I was dancing, the wording of stop dancing to retire, it was something that I can't even think about. I don't want to think about it. It's just something that's so almost tragic, because I was thinking, if you don't talk about it, if you don't think about it, it's not going to happen. But people, I want to share with the audience out there, it will happen. That happens to everyone. It's not just happening to you. So it is not something that you needed to be embarrassed about, to think about another career. That's just natural path of all profession. So I am glad that you shared that with us, because I was looking at your resume and I was like, that's very smart to do it at the same time. So
yeah, I would say to any young person, like, obviously you need a couple years to kind of get your feet in a company, but
yeah,
when you start to settle down, it doesn't have to be university, but whatever else you're interested, go for it. Because you
right,
don't know what's around the corner. I would say that to every young professional.
right. What's like to be a ballet dancer in Europe? Let's say you toured all over the world, but you're based in Birmingham, England. To be male dancer and to be a ballet dancer in general, is there any difference you think between Europe and United States? Because some of our students are pursuing a career and to travel to Europe. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, the one thing that Europe does have is they have a lot of companies in a very close proximity, and
Mhm.
whereas, America's got great companies, amazing companies, but it's very spread out.
Mhm.
So uh, it's a lot, I guess it's a lot harder to change. Whereas, you take even just England, you've got the Royal Ballet, Birmingham Royal Ballet, English National Ballet, Northern Ballet, Scottish Ballet, like so many big companies just in one country.
Just
And
in
then you
one
can,
country.
yeah, and then you can go on to, to Germany, and each European country, they all have their own, and it's a very close knit network. Um, uh, when I was auditioning, my family, or some of my family are European, so I was always, I guess, destined to go to Europe, because it was like new and different, and I was up for a new challenge. Um, I think it's probably leveled out a little bit now. Um,
Mhm.
but the one good thing with which sets Europe apart is, you're on annual salaries.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a big
and
difference.
yeah, in America you've got, you get, 32-week contracts or 48-week contracts.
Yeah.
Um, and in Europe, everywhere, job security is just, it's in a different league than some places in America. Um, they, yeah, you've get in all the European countries, you've got public health care. So a lot of those sort of things, which you probably would never think of as a student, Europe does have. Um, Not that it's, you could say there's pros and cons either way, but um, you also have a lot of different styles really close. You got Russia, you got Europe, and you've got England, and those are three massive different styles of dance. And people who are able to switch between the companies, you got a lot to learn in, literally a 3-hour time zone.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think a lot of people don't understand. It's very close knit. I mean, you can actually take a train to another country and audition and come back, and you can do it in one day.
Yeah,
Are you a pension worker? You're a pension worker, aren't you? Birmingham Royal, it's a government entity, correct?
yeah. All
So
all the
have
companies are.
all the company. So having that security in the back of your head, knowing that the consistency of income, it comes in the structure of the rank and all that, having that in place, not the decision a board of directors of each company can make. Right? This is a policy set for almost like a government worker. So not a one particular artist director or a set of board members can change the whole set of it. Does that offer you the type of security that will make you somewhat, when you're dancing, you just feel that kind of comfort? Does that have anything relation to that? That your job security? Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to worry. You know, it's one thing you don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about each year whether your contract's going to get renewed, because it is. You know, once you pass your probation period, that's it until you want to retire. And that is, that's amazing. And not everywhere has that, but a lot of the most of the European countries do.
Yeah. This is something I try to tell my students when they receive a set of contracts. This is a skill that we learn in Kirov Academy, or this for the senior students, that just aside as an academic class, how to prepare them to conduct themselves in audition, how to create a dialogue, professional dialogue with the company. And also another thing is how to understand contract, how to understand the read, and what do you expect from a professional contract. So last year we had a girl who was accepted a job from a well-known company in Switzerland. And she was very excited. She was offered a junior company member, right? It's not a trainee or student, it was company member, junior company member contract. So she showed me this contract, and I read the first page and I told her to sign it. Because the contract itself is absolutely pro-dancer. Just so that you can read in the contract, the language, it was offered protection right away for the dancers and not for the management. It was just perfect. And I said, you know what? This is an example of a secure contract, because you can hear the language is not trying to get around certain obligations, not to throw in some clause that will murky the situation. It was just black, white, perfect. And I think this is something that I try to make all students to understand. We love dance. We're passionate. We learn to sacrifice. We learn to dedicate our time and love to the art form. Yes, but you also have to live, right? You also have to pay the bills. You also have to buy the grocery. The grocery store is not going to say you are a beautiful, devoted ballet dancer, so therefore you don't have to pay. No, that doesn't make any sense. So I tried, as a school, we try to provide the extra curriculum for the students, so to prepare them to understand some of the technicality they will have to encounter and face when they enter the professional world. And obviously having a solid contract like yours, it's just what you just said, it's beautiful. I don't have to worry about it. After I pass the trial period, it's expected. So that, I think that kind of security, it does provide some sort of calmness in you as a professional dancer. I do believe that, because you cannot perform. If you have to always worry about whether am I going to get paid or not, am I going to get a renewed contract or not, because the language in the company is not secure, or they're always facing some kind of financial problem that always sort of, the dancers always get hardest to hit somehow, right?
Yeah.
So that is something that I want to hear from you, how important that is, to have a secure life in order to be a professional dancer. That relationship is absolutely tight. Matthias, this has been absolutely wonderful. You're the first one as a Kirov alumni, so I'm gonna try to do a alumni sort of a series, because it is special. It is absolutely special, and we as an academy are opening our arms to welcome you guys, to be more engaged, to be ever more connected to the school. And I was absolutely shocked. Some of the alumni, once they graduate, last year, there's a few of them come back and they looked at this is the first time they ever come back after graduation. So we're absolutely going to change that. We're going to have a lot more engagement with alumni because I want you guys to play a big part in influence, inspiring the second and the third generation of Kirov alumni. So for them to be a part of our system in training our current students. And I think that is going to be absolutely important for the school to move forward. So Mathias, I want to thank you so much for giving us your time and share with us your experience, knowledge, and we are very grateful that you come on the show. And would you like to say last few words to our audience before we let you go?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you very much for having me. Kirov will always hold a very special place in my heart, and it's taught me everything that has helped me be a dancer. So, and to achieve what I want to achieve. And without the school, I don't know where I would be today. And yeah, I definitely think having an alumni series is crucial to the school, because all the dancers I know, we have learned so much more now, having been a professional, and to share that with the new students for the next generation will only make the next generation better.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Thank you so much. Good luck with everything. Okay, good luck. Enjoy to be a father, and it was the best thing ever happened to me. But it changed everybody's life. But enjoy your career, and good luck with Mr. Costa, and just keep in touch. Okay, we appreciate you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Until next
Bye.
time. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.